Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into a small coin that might be hiding in your pocket, your drawer, or even an old jar of change. But what if I told you that this tiny piece of copper could hold an incredible story and possibly surprising value? We're talking about the legendary USA Lincoln Memorial penny, a coin featuring the iconic face of Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest leaders in American history. Millions of Americans have spent this coin without ever realizing the history, mystery, and collector excitement behind it. But today, we're going to uncover what makes this humble penny so fascinating. From its creation at the historic Denver Mint to the rare varieties that collectors search for across the country. So before we reveal the hidden secrets and real value behind this coin, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me, because the penny you're about to learn about might just change the way you look at every coin in your pocket. Let's get started. First up in the Abraham Lincoln Memorial 1 cent is one of those fascinating coins that quietly carries decades of American history in the palm of your hand. At first glance, it may appear to be just an ordinary copper penny, something millions of people have seen and spent without a second thought. Yet behind its simple design lies a powerful story about American heritage, leadership, and the evolution of U.S. coinage. Minted in 1964 at the Denver Mint, this small coin features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, one of the most respected and influential leaders in American history. For collectors and history lovers alike, the 1964 D. Lincoln penny represents a remarkable connection to the past, a time when the United States was experiencing cultural transformation, economic change, and technological progress. Even though billions of these pennies were produced, certain versions and conditions of the coin can still attract attention from collectors around the world who recognize the hidden value and historical importance behind this humble 1 cent piece. The story of the Lincoln penny actually begins decades earlier, in 1909, when the United States introduced a brand new coin design to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was a groundbreaking moment because it marked the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regularly circulating American coin. The design was created by the talented sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose portrait of Lincoln became one of the most recognizable images in American numismatic history. By the time the 1964 D penny was produced, the coin had already been circulating for more than half a century, becoming deeply embedded in American daily life. The obverse side of the coin shows Lincoln's profile facing right, along with the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year 1964. Just beside the date sits the small but significant D mint mark, indicating that the coin was struck in Denver. This tiny letter may seem insignificant to the average person, but to coin collectors it is an essential detail that helps determine where the coin was produced and sometimes even how valuable it might become. Turning the coin over reveals the famous reverse design known as the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. The reverse was designed by Frank Gasparo, and it features a detailed image of the Lincoln Memorial located in Washington, D.C. What makes this design particularly impressive is the incredible level of detail packed into such a small coin. If you look very closely at a well-preserved example, you can even see a tiny representation of the Lincoln statue sitting inside the memorial building. Surrounding the image are the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and 1 cent. This reverse design remained in use for nearly 5 decades, making it one of the longest-running designs in American coin history. For many Americans growing up during the mid-20th century, the Lincoln Memorial penny was the coin they encountered most often in everyday transactions. When discussing the 1964 D. Lincoln penny, it is important to understand the historical context of the early 1960s in the United States. This was a time of rapid change, marked by civil rights movements, technological advancement, and cultural transformation. The assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963 had recently shaken the nation, and the country was entering a new era of social and political development. Coins minted during this period, therefore, carry more than monetary value. They serve as small metallic witnesses to the events and emotions of the era. The 1964 D penny circulated through countless American hands, shopkeepers, factory workers, students, and families, making it a silent participant in everyday life during one of the most transformative decades in modern history. From a collector's perspective, the 1964 D. Lincoln Memorial penny is particularly interesting because of the enormous number of coins that were produced that year. The United States mint struck more than 3 billion pennies at the Denver facility alone. Because of this massive mintage, most 1964 D pennies are considered common and typically carry only a small premium above their face value when found in circulated condition. However, the story changes dramatically when the coin is discovered in exceptional condition. Coins that have remained untouched for decades, retaining their original red copper shine and sharp details, can command much higher prices in the collector's market. Professional grading services carefully examine these coins and assign them a condition grade, and high-grade examples can sometimes sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on rarity and preservation. One of the most exciting aspects of collecting Lincoln pennies is the possibility of discovering rare varieties or minting errors. During the minting process, small mistakes can occur, such as doubled lettering, off-center strikes, or unusual die marks. While most 1964 D pennies are ordinary, certain error versions can be highly desirable among collectors. A coin with a noticeable doubling of the date or lettering, for instance, may suddenly become far more valuable than a standard example. These rare variations transform an everyday coin into a collector's treasure. This is why many enthusiasts carefully examine their old coins using magnifying glasses or microscopes, hoping to find a hidden rarity that others may have overlooked for decades. Another fascinating feature of the 1964 D Lincoln penny is its composition. Unlike modern pennies made primarily of zinc, coins from 1964 were struck using a mixture of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This composition gives the coin its warm reddish color and slightly heavier feel compared to modern cents. Because of their high copper content, many collectors and metal enthusiasts believe these older pennies have intrinsic value beyond their face value. Over time, as copper prices fluctuate and older coins become harder to find in circulation, the appeal of these classic copper cents continues to grow. Holding one of these coins can feel like holding a tiny piece of American industrial history, from a time when the nation's currency relied heavily on copper metal. The value of a 1964 D Lincoln penny, therefore, depends heavily on its condition, rarity, and collector demand. In most everyday cases, a circulated example may only be worth a few cents. However, a pristine uncirculated specimen with a bright red luster can be worth significantly more. Coins graded at the highest levels, those with nearly flawless surfaces and exceptional detail, sometimes sell at auctions for impressive amounts. While it is extremely rare for a 1964 D penny to reach the price levels of legendary coins, collectors still treasure them as part of a complete Lincoln cent collection. The excitement of searching through jars of old pennies, hoping to find a well-preserved or unusual specimen, keeps the hobby alive for millions of collectors around the world. Another reason the Abraham Lincoln Memorial 1 cent continues to fascinate collectors is the emotional connection many Americans have with the Lincoln cent itself. For generations, this coin has been one of the most recognizable pieces of currency in the United States, often associated with childhood memories of saving pennies in jars, piggy banks, or small coin collections started at a young age. Because of this deep cultural connection, the Lincoln penny has become more than just money. It has become a symbol of American tradition and perseverance. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln reminds people of a leader who guided the nation through one of its most difficult periods, the American Civil War, preserving the Union and ending slavery. Every time someone looks at a Lincoln penny, they are reminded of that powerful legacy, making even an ordinary coin feel meaningful and historically significant. In the end, the 1964 D. Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny is far more than just a 1-cent coin. It represents history, craftsmanship, and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln himself. For collectors, historians, and curious treasure hunters, this humble copper coin serves as a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry enormous stories. Whether discovered in an old coin jar, inherited from a family collection, or purchased at a coin show, the 1964 D penny invites us to look more closely at the everyday objects around us. Hidden among ordinary coins could be a small piece of history waiting to be rediscovered, and sometimes that simple penny might hold far more value than anyone ever expected. Next up in the 1963 D Lincoln Memorial cent begins with one of the most recognizable figures in American history, Abraham Lincoln. At first glance, this small copper coin may seem ordinary, something many people once carried in their pockets without a second thought. Yet hidden within this modest 1-cent piece is a fascinating connection to American heritage, craftsmanship, and the powerful legacy of Lincoln himself. Introduced as part of the Lincoln Memorial Series, the 1963 D penny reflects a time when American coins were still made with a rich bronze composition that gave them their warm reddish tone. For collectors and historians alike, this coin represents more than spare change. It represents a moment in the history of the United States when coin design honored one of the nation's greatest leaders, while also becoming a collectible treasure that people today still search for in old jars, drawers, and inherited collections. The design of this iconic coin is deeply symbolic and instantly recognizable to collectors around the world. On the obverse side, you will see the detailed portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design originally created by the talented sculptor Victor David Brenner. His portrait of Lincoln has remained one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history, first appearing in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday. By the time the 1963 D version was minted, this design had already become a familiar symbol of American currency. Above Lincoln's head appears the word liberty, while the motto "In God We Trust" sits proudly across the top. On the reverse side, the coin features the majestic Lincoln Memorial, giving the coin its well-known Lincoln Memorial Cent nickname. If you look closely, collectors often point out that a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial can actually be seen between the pillars, an impressive detail considering the small size of the coin. The D mint mark on this penny is especially significant because it tells us exactly where the coin was produced. The letter represents the Denver Mint, one of the major facilities responsible for producing circulating U.S. coins. During 1963, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these pennies to meet the demand of everyday commerce across America. While the total mintage was extremely high, making most examples quite common, collectors know that certain coins from this year can still hold surprising value depending on their condition. A coin that has remained untouched, with its original luster and sharp details, can be far more desirable than a worn example that spent decades circulating through pockets and cash registers. When discussing the value of a 1963 D Lincoln penny, condition becomes the most important factor. Most circulated coins from this year are worth only a few cents above face value, but uncirculated coins, those that were never used in everyday transactions, can sell for several dollars or more. In higher certified grades, especially those graded MS 65 or above by professional grading services, collectors may pay significantly more because such coins are extremely well preserved. The deep reddish color of freshly minted copper coins, often called red by collectors, also increases value dramatically compared to coins that have turned brown over time. Because of this, many collectors carefully store their coins in protective holders to preserve their original appearance and maximize long-term value. Another fascinating aspect of the 1963 D penny is the possibility of finding subtle minting variations or errors. While major error coins are rare, collectors always inspect old pennies carefully for doubled letters, off-center strikes, or unusual metal defects. These types of mint errors can transform a common penny into a highly collectible piece that attracts strong interest in the numismatic market. Coin enthusiasts often use magnifying glasses or microscopes to inspect every tiny detail of their coins, hoping to discover a rare variety hiding among what appears to be an ordinary group of pennies. The historical timing of this coin also adds emotional significance to collectors. The year 1963 was one of the most dramatic and memorable years in modern American history, marked by major cultural shifts and historic events that shaped the nation. Holding a coin minted during that year feels like holding a small piece of that moment in time. Millions of these pennies circulated through grocery stores, gas stations, and coffee shops across the country, silently witnessing everyday life as history unfolded around them. For collectors today, coins like the 1963 D Lincoln Cent serve as miniature historical artifacts that connect the present with the past. Many collectors begin their numismatic journey with Lincoln Cents because they are affordable, widely available, and historically fascinating. Searching through old penny rolls or inherited coin jars can sometimes reveal older coins like the 1963 D hiding among modern ones. The thrill of discovery is what keeps many enthusiasts passionate about coin collecting. Even if a particular coin turns out not to be extremely valuable, The excitement of examining its design, history, and potential rarity creates a rewarding experience for collectors of all ages. Another reason this coin continues to attract attention is its connection to the broader Lincoln cent series, one of the most collected coin series in American numismatics. From the original 1909 wheat pennies to the later Lincoln Memorial coins, millions of collectors worldwide attempt to complete date and mint mark sets. The 1963 D penny represents an important piece within that larger puzzle, helping collectors fill one more space in their albums. Because of its relatively accessible price, it is often one of the easier coins for beginners to add to their collections while still holding historical significance. Another fascinating detail about the 1963 D Lincoln Memorial cent is the metal composition that gives the coin its classic appearance and durability. During this period, the United States Mint produced pennies using a bronze alloy made of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This rich copper content is why older pennies often develop beautiful shades of red, brown, or deep chocolate tones over time. When a coin is freshly minted, it shines with a bright reddish glow that collectors describe as mint red, and this original color can dramatically increase its desirability among coin enthusiasts. Over decades of exposure to air, moisture, and handling, the copper gradually darkens, creating a natural patina that tells the story of the coin's journey through time. For collectors, examining these subtle color variations is part of the excitement, because the difference between a fully red coin and a brown one can mean a large difference in value. Collectors are also fascinated by how coins like the 1963 D penny were produced inside the historic facilities of the United States Mint. The minting process begins with large sheets of metal that are punched into blank discs known as planchets. These planchets are then heated, cleaned, and fed into powerful coining presses where engraved dies strike the design onto the metal with immense pressure. In a fraction of a second, the blank piece of metal becomes a detailed coin featuring the face of Abraham Lincoln on one side and the elegant Lincoln Memorial on the other. In 1963, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies using high-speed machinery that could strike dozens of coins every second, ensuring that enough coins were available for everyday transactions across the country. For many collectors, the real excitement begins when they start examining their coins closely for rare varieties or hidden details. While most 1963 D pennies are fairly common, there are always stories of collectors discovering unusual die varieties, minor doubling in the lettering, or striking imperfections that make a coin unique. Ultimately, the lasting appeal of the 1963 D Lincoln Memorial penny comes from the powerful combination of history, artistry, and possibility that it represents. A coin that once held only 1 cent of purchasing power can now capture the imagination of collectors across the world, reminding us that value is not always measured only in money. Sometimes the real treasure lies in the stories these coins carry, the decades of circulation, the historical moments they quietly witnessed, and the excitement they bring to collectors who continue searching for the next hidden gem. Even today, more than 60 years after it was minted, the 1963 D Lincoln penny remains a small but meaningful symbol of American history that continues to inspire curiosity, discovery, and appreciation among coin enthusiasts everywhere. In the end, the 1963 D Lincoln Memorial penny reminds us that even the smallest objects can carry powerful stories. What once served as a simple 1-cent coin used in daily transactions now represents decades of American history, craftsmanship, and collecting passion. Whether discovered in a forgotten coin jar, purchased from a dealer, or passed down through generations, this tiny copper coin continues to inspire curiosity and excitement among collectors around the world. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that somewhere out there, in an old box or hidden among ordinary change, another 1963 D Lincoln penny may still be waiting to be rediscovered, ready to tell its story once again.